In this lesson, we will explore how the Second Amendment protects the right to bear arms and how the Supreme Court has interpreted that right over time. First, we will look at what the Second Amendment says and why it was included in the Constitution. Then we will examine two different interpretations of what the right to bear arms means. Finally, we will explore two major Supreme Court cases that clarified how the Second Amendment applies today. Let's start with the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment says, "A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." This means that people have a right to own and use weapons, especially firearms. But the wording of the amendment, especially the part about a well-regulated militia, has caused a lot of disagreement. There are two main ways people interpret the Second Amendment: the individual right view and the collective right view. Let's just pause there for a moment so I can give you something I give to my own students. I made a free cheat sheet for this lesson and the entire AP Government course. It's linked below. It shows you exactly what you need to know, and you can tick off the points you're confident about, so you know what you still need to learn. You'll also get the required Supreme Court case and foundational document cheat sheets to help with FRQ preparation. Totally free. Grab it below. Now back to the lesson. The individual right view says that every person has a personal right to own guns for things like self-defense, hunting, or sport. This interpretation treats the Second Amendment like the other parts of the Bill of Rights. It protects individuals, not just groups. People who support this view believe that the right to bear arms doesn't depend on being part of a militia. The collective right view says that the Second Amendment only protects gun ownership as part of a state-run military force, like a militia. Supporters of this interpretation believe that the founders were mainly worried about making sure states had the power to defend themselves, not about personal gun rights. Now let's look at how the Supreme Court has ruled on these ideas. There are two major cases that help define what the Second Amendment means: District of Columbia versus Heller and McDonald versus Chicago. In District of Columbia versus Heller, the Supreme Court ruled that the Second Amendment protects an individual's right to own a firearm, even if they are not part of a militia. The case challenged a Washington, D.C. law that banned handguns and required that all other guns be kept unloaded and locked up. The court struck down the law, saying it violated the Constitution. This was the first time the Supreme Court clearly said the Second Amendment gives individuals, not just groups, a right to bear arms. In McDonald versus Chicago, the court took this idea one step further. This case challenged a handgun ban in the city of Chicago. The court ruled that the Second Amendment doesn't just limit the federal government, it also applies to state and local governments. This video has been a clip from my 4-hour full course review video. Click the video on screen now to study the full course in just 4 hours.